Good day, Star Citizens. This is Clever Bard, and welcome to the first of what I would like to call Hold the Line, where I do a deep dive into some things where it's like, hold the phone, hold the line, wait, what are we doing here? What are we talking about? There's a lot of heat. There's a lot of excitement coming down the pipe. Let's go back through and understand. And what we're understanding in this episode, the first episode, is what is item recovery and how is it different from item insurance? So the first thing I would like to play for you is one of the last things that we saw Dev say. But before we get to that, I'd like to pull this down and I'd like to prepare us for that conversation. So in the Alpha 4.1 first look at item recovery, we see that they set us up by saying if you have not refreshed your mind on the 2954 presentation, Crafting Your Home and the Stars Are My Destination, you are not ready to understand this. And let's be honest, they didn't do a great job of describing what's going on. But then again, they didn't do a good job here either. Disco Lando, Jared Huckabee had to come in and say a lot of things in Spectrum after the end of these presentations. So I think we're facing that again. Now, if we go with these as the premise, I want to play something first before I come down into Tier 1 and Tier 2. So let's go over here to Star Citizen Live. That was posted 4 months ago now. Our memories as backers are short. And I'd just like to refresh our memory for a moment before I dive into everything. So here we go. Let's see what Jared has to say.
You put a question about subscriber armor in here. Dangerous. Subscriber armor. When we lose it, do we use insurance or recraft a blueprint, and how does that work?
Awkward.
Are you looking at me?
I'm looking at you. Yes, so when you, with your subscriber armor, you do gain a blueprint when crafting is introduced into Star Citizen.
So when crafting is introduced to Star Citizen, you're going to get a blueprint. And they say as much here. When you can craft, bricked items will be implemented, right? Restoring brick items will be implemented. So they're going to use the word restoring, and they're going to use the word claiming, and they're going to use some other language that I think is really important. So we must understand that insurance, based on these, and bringing this forward, has 3 tiers, right? 3 tiers for insurance. Ships come with a warranty, and you cannot sell warranted, purchased in real life ships to other players. That would imply, logically, that you cannot sell crafted, blueprint crafted from hangar attributed, whether purchased or attributed for rewards or in-game like in-game achievements attributed to your hangar. Those can't be crafted and then sold to other people. And if the other person wants, and you might not claim that thing, you might not be able to craft it again until you claim it, right? So they're still figuring that out, as you'll see Jared say here in a minute.
I looked at you because we were talking about crafting, and I thought you might want to carry on that just for the record.
It's the one who's going to get controversial topic.
Yeah, I'm very nervous about this question. I want to get right. So when crafting comes into Star Citizen, you will receive a blueprint for your items that you've got, and you will be able, those unique items you will be able to craft again.
And just because I know somebody's immediately going to ask, that's not a replacement of the item kiosk, the item recovery a kiosk that we've talked about in the past. That.
So before Jared gets too deep into this, I imagine the kiosk is going to be like Escape from Tarkov, but in a persistent universe, right? When Escape from Tarkov scavs go out and loot, the server's been down. You know, Tarkov knows whether or not that item got out a long time ago. Right? It just goes and checks and say, did that server shut down and was the item in there and whatever. But with a persistent universe, he's going to bring up a couple unique points.
I think it was at one point we intended it to be in a previous patch and it just wasn't ready and stuff like this. There are still plans for that. When we solve a number of technical challenges, we were talking about that before the show. You know, how to keep that from being an item duplication machine. You know, it has to go through and find, like, where is the existing item? Where is the existing, oh, it's floating out in the, you know, halfway between Hearst and Microtech. Okay, it's got to clean that item up and you know, so, and give you the new one so we don't.
And in that case, just to stop him before he gets too far, you have not claimed it yet, right? So somebody, it hasn't stolen it, and you can, he's going to go on to say this, but it's available to be, when you claim it, it's available to be cleaned up, so to speak. So rules applied to clean up would apply to that. Now, he's going to go on to talk about this.
So we're not just, you know, spamming hundreds and hundreds of copies, but also if it was stolen, you know, if it was taken, well, okay, well, no, if it's sitting in somebody else's inventory, you know, well, that's a, you know, is that a legitimate, you know, kind of thing? Because we also don't want that to just become a duplicate thing. So there's a number.
So the way that I understand that more specifically is, if we have a blueprint that will craft an item, and if it exists to our mobiGlas, if it's, you know, there are weapons today that pair to a ring, and if somebody takes the gun away from you because they're not wearing the ring, it doesn't work. You know, weapons exist in 2025 that applies to. So that could apply to armor or to weapons. Now the armor would be something like life support, or, you know, the HUD, or different things like that. But yeah, that's getting into the minutia. So being able to only print one item at a time, or print as many items as you want, but you can never transfer ownership, right? They can never transfer ownership, and if they do transfer ownership, that person has to restore it before they can use it. I don't know. Because that's something they are.
Number of technical and logistical and just game rules things that we're still working out, but
so they're still working it out. Now they seem to are beginning to figure that out, right? So this brings us back to, okay, so the items attributed to your hangar are blueprints, right? They've given blueprints for that. And whether or not the blueprint is split into two, where it's a cosmetic and a pledge item, where you can buy a crafted specialty Karna rifle that you don't want to have to take the time to make good, but you still want to put your cosmetic on it, right? So they may give us two blueprints, or maybe they just give us a cosmetic. I don't know. But to go back to this, the pledge items are going to be pretty terrible. Let's just be honest. The pledge items are terrible in the same way our ships are terrible. They're default loadouts. They don't wear out as fast, but, you know, if we go back and we check out the we go check out the comm link for this, you know, this last week, we got grades for components, and if components are to our ship as guns attributes and armor attributes are, not the concept team, not the monthly report, components, there it is. Get me back, go back. So if our components have different grades and, you know, A, B, C, D, you know, attributes and classes, you know, civilian, military, grade A, B, C, D, all of that may apply to these pledge items, okay? So in Tier 1, you're not going to get the upgrades back. A Tier 1 insurance claim is not going to get the upgrades back. But you can Tier 3 insure it, and you may, when you reclaim it, if it is available to be reclaimed, you may get the upgraded item back, right? There could be a gamble in that. You could get a Tier 1 insurance, and the likelihood that you're going to get this really nice gun back, maybe you get it back when you claim it, when you reclaim it. But if you have to make a claim on it and it has been stolen, you're going to have to print it again. So that might be an incentive to get a Tier 3 because you're taking less of a risk. Now, there is another reason to get a Tier 3. This is referenced at Comlink SCW/14282-API. The insurance cost is going to be attributed to some additional policies. So there are going to be different risk levels associated with things like Pyro versus Stanton. Risk level 5 might be a contested zone where you're never going to get anything back. They can't reclaim it. You're not going to send in an NPC to go get it, conceivably. Risk 3 might be something more like the station itself, or a derelict outpost or something like that. And if you have the proper insurance, tier 3 insurance, something like that, you can get the value back. But if you have a tier 1 insurance, the value, you're not getting the value. Is like the insurance company says, what are you doing? What are you doing going into a contestant zone with a tier 1 insurance? That's stupid. So you're not going to get any money back. So the other thing that they mentioned is people are going to figure out insurance fraud. They're just going to figure it out. So how will they combat insurance fraud? Well, they're going to put like they said, they go as far as real life and dial it back to fun. So there's going to be in-game ways of finding out insurance fraud that are probably more effective than real life insurance fraud, investigations. They have ways of looking at the back end that actual investigators in real life don't have. So this is from the same article, a little bit further down, actually at the very end. They will address insurance fraud, and players may be, you might lose your hangar attributed item. You might lose insurance on your ship because that's a penalty. I don't know. They have to figure that out, but they will address insurance fraud in that way. So if we start slowing down and we remember, whoa, what are we talking about? We got to remember that there are warranties. We got to remember that their insurance comes in 3 tiers. We got to remember that in the tiers comes different levels of insurance danger. And so when we separate insurance payouts from reclaiming it like we would in Tarkov receiving the gun back, we have to understand that the order of operations. If the gun is out there floating in space and nobody's stolen, it's not in somebody's inventory, the gun will be returned to us. But if the gun is being restored into somebody else's inventory, or it is not in a space that can be cleaned up by the system, if it's not forgotten and left by somebody because it really wasn't worth that much in the first place, then yeah, it's going to be returned. But that wouldn't prevent a sale from the player economy, right? Restoring a bricked item to a player by duplicating it back into your inventory and not cleaning it up from the original location is not their intention here. The intention is they're going to give you money back so that you can go back and recraft it yourself or buy whatever it was that you insured, because they're addressing both pledged items and non-pledged items in this post. So, it is what it is. I think it's really important to remember these things as we go through these systems. And I'd like everybody to give me some input on this deep dive. Did I go deep enough, right? And I don't know how to feel about this. I don't think Tier 0 is actually testing appropriately the things that they need to test in Tier 1 and 2. They might add and change to this as it evolves, and it should evolve definitely between what we saw at the 4.1 PTU. You can tractor items off of the body, and it duplicates. They're physically there, and it's not good. You can put a red key card in your grenade slot, and that'll duplicate, right? So in Tarkov, you couldn't even see the valuable keys on the person. If somebody has a red card that they brought in from outside the raid that's not found in raid, for example, you couldn't even see that key. It's not because they want to prevent people from RMT. So there are certain ways to go about this that work. So in a way, if they flag certain items as they disappear from your corpse, but they reappear on your corpse, that might work for this. But this isn't the way to go. In my opinion, it would be a better way to go to have a store kiosk, just literally a store kiosk that has direct access to the list of items in your hangar that cost 10x, 20x what they do in the normal store. So $100,000 for a Karna rifle that has a specific paint on it would be an appropriate money sink for people who want to, or you register gear. You register non-hanger attributed gear online to this kiosk, and it becomes a store item because maybe it's a unique find in game that you can't get in stores. But to get it, you have to pay an exorbitant amount of money to get it back. I think that would be the type of money sink that would do much better than this die with your boots on and keep them on when you recover. It doesn't make any sense. So let me know what your thoughts are concerning my thoughts. And I don't know if I hit all of the points I wanted to hit. So I'm just going to go back through this for a second. And no, I think that's it. Let's just see if Jared has anything else to say.
Crafting seems like an immediate solution. Well, when it comes out anyway, like probably a more immediate solution to allow you to recover those items, because a lot of those items are really cool.
So he said recover there again. So recovering the items, but he said crafting. Crafting is a way to recover, right? It's really important that we remember that crafting is what they mean by recover in some situations, specifically the situations where somebody has restored the item, right? And now it has the base skin. They stole it, they restored it, just like a ship.
Absolutely.
Like I'm always a big fan. I can't get it because Tom's in the way of some of the helmets that came out during my time there. So
yeah, I want to use my P8 in the PU. You know what I mean?
And with that, thank you for holding the line.